Not all those who wander are lost. J.R. Tolkien. Welcome to Aegis Travel Adventures. We are Ken
and Gisele. We have been to over 100 countries and are still looking to see what is around the next corner. We love wine,
travel, and adventure. Listen to our podcast where we share the fun of the magical places, people, and cultures that have touched our lives.
Aegis,
Travel,
adventures.
Welcome to Aegis Travel Adventures, episode 20. This is Ken.
And hi, this is Gisele.
And hope you have a good day. Today we'd like to talk about the Westman Islands in southern Iceland. It's the most southern point in the country.
Which is where we are right now.
And it's where we are right now. And you have to take a ferry to get there. So we have some very interesting points on that, which we'll cover later. There's several islands here. It's incredibly beautiful. Everything's volcanic. The islands were all formed through eruptions. And the last two eruptions, 1963, there was an island formed, Surtsey, and it is in this area, and the volcano erupted. It was an undersea eruption. It lasted for 4 years and created a roughly 2.7 square kilometer island, which has now shrunk to 1.3 kilometers, which is pretty normal with volcanic eruptions. Everything starts to sink. Anyway, the second eruption occurred on the island Heme, which is what we're on, and it occurred in 1973 and lasted for about 4 months, and it covered the whole town in volcanic ash immediately, the first day of the eruption, and everybody had to be evacuated.
But one thing that was kind of interesting to note when you read about the history of the volcano, the eruption, was that because the day before the eruption, the volcanic eruption, the weather was bad. So all the shipping boats, fishing boats were in the harbor because fishing is a big deal here. So there was the ability to transport everybody off the island because all the boats were there. If there had been out to sea, this would have been a whole different dynamics, and there probably would have been a whole lot of loss of life, which there wasn't. So there's it's amazing. It's one of the coolest places we've been. We walked around all day yesterday on the rocks and the volcano. It's very windy. For those of you who don't know, we're from Florida, and we dodged the bullet of a hurricane. But last night, as we were sitting in our hotel room, we thought, well, guess what? Looks like we're in a hurricane because the rain was really bad here, and the windows were rattling. So we felt like we got a taste of home without having to worry about our house being destroyed.
So the volcano that erupted in 1973 was Eldfell, and on the island Heme. And it looks like when you look at the volcanic from remnants, ash, rocks, about a third of the island was covered. And like I said, the evacuation, was everybody. I think there was about 5,000 residents on the island then. And one person ended up dying, I think, during a rescue attempt. But it was pretty amazing what happened. So we brought a car over here. You could get around without a car. You'd have to do a lot of walking. But you also can, once you arrive on the dock from the ferry there, there's a bunch of tour companies. So it's pretty easy to sign up for a tour, and on a bus or a van, and they'll take you around and show you the sights. It's a pretty small island overall. It does have an amazing golf course on it, which is partly on the ocean and partly up in the in the rolling hills. You better be a good golfer, or you're going to be in the volcanic rock.
Or in the ocean. Depends on where
or the
you.
ocean.
Depends you get the. And like Ken said, there's tours, there's walking tours, there's boat tours. We were looking forward to taking a kind of a Zodiac boat tour on around the island, but with the high seas and stuff, I don't think that's happening. But one thing that's really what people come to here, what they come to the island before, besides all the volcano, is the puffins. Puffins are the cutest little birds that you've ever seen, and this is the largest sanctuary, or the largest place they
Colony.
they come in the world.
In the world for
So
puffins.
there's always some puffins here. They're usually a little bit earlier in the season. We're at the end of the season now, so we have some remnants of them. But there's, like, you come, I guess, about a month or so before we're here, there's just puffins everywhere. But one thing is kind of fun, interesting, is that at night, baby puffins, when they're learning to fly, they get lost. So the town ends up with a good deal of baby puffins that end up on their doorsteps. So they have this initiative with the children of the island, that the children go around at night with flashlights when it's the baby season puffin time, and then they get them and they put them in boxes, and then they
Only one to a box, though.
Yeah,
So
one
they
to
don't-
a box,
So they
yeah.
don't hurt each other.
and then they take them to some place where somebody deems that they are okay to fly, or they need to have some more rescue, some more work with them. But if they're okay to fly, then they take them off to one of the different cliff points and let them go. It's really fun. But we happened to be there on looking over a cliff yesterday, and this family brought their little puffin up, and I was like, ooh. And the little boy was so sweet. He goes, "Do you want to hold it?" So I got to hold a baby puffin. It was probably the highlight of my trip to Iceland. We put the video on Instagram so you can see me oohing and awing over a baby puffin.
The scenery is just knockdown gorgeous. I mean, it's, like I said, it's all volcanic. These dramatic cliffs and volcanic mountains everywhere. The city is in the middle of all that, and I would say probably in the volcanic eruption in 1973, 200 or so houses were destroyed. Most of the town has been rebuilt. There's a few places where there's rubble still, and there's a monument, and it explains what happened, how many houses were destroyed. It's kind of a walking path around the island, and there's a volcano museum,
Which we haven't been. We're going to go today. It's supposed to be very nice. There's also a beluga sanctuary that's off the island. It's someplace around there. Again, we're probably not going to be able to get there because of the weather. And then they also have baby puffins that they're rehabilitating there. So those are the things. But people come here for the puffins and to walk around. It's very, very windy. And so you have to be prepared for wind. You have to be prepared for the weather, because Iceland is very chilly. So if you plan to come, read up on when you're going to come and the weather, and be prepared, because it is very windy, and make sure you have good hiking shoes. But we've enjoyed it like Iceland. Everything is very expensive. We're at I would consider a 3 to 4 star hotel, but it's pleasant. It's nice. They have a decent breakfast, but it's also not cheap. So again, you come to Iceland knowing that you're going to become here spending a little more money than maybe you normally do.
There's a microbrewery on the island called Brothers Brewery. It's just a block and a half from us, and they carry about 8 beers that they make and a couple beers from the mainland part of Iceland, and they were very good, and they're very pleasant people, and it was a nice evening. They allowed us to go down the street to a pizza place, which is a block or so away, and get a pizza and bring it back to the brewery. And so that was our dinner. But be prepared in all of Iceland, even the Westman Islands, for $10 and $11, $12 beers. I mean, that's just the going rate.
And and again, you come here planning for it. But when we were at the brewery, we met this lovely young woman who is a blogger, and her name is Jeannie, and she has this blog called Iceland with a View, and we'll put that in the link as well. And she is full of knowledge and information about what to do all around Iceland. They were Americans. They came here on their honeymoon and fell in love with Iceland, and now they live here.
And have a young child as well now.
They're the ones that suggested that we have the Icelandic pizza. Well, the traditional one. It's a cheese pizza.
4 kinds of different cheese.
And then, but the thing that makes it interesting is that you put jam on it.
A berry jam.
That's homemade, or that's made only on the island. And so we tried it, and it's not bad. It was kind of like cheese pizza with jam, but the pizza was very well done and fresh. They made it right in front of Ken, so that's always fun. There's a 4-star restaurant on the island that we have not tried, but actually it's in the hotel. And so today we're going to probably try one of the local restaurants and see how it goes. But again, the weather is beautiful today, so we're going to do some more walking and go around the island. But Westman Islands is just a really unique place to come. If you're planning a trip to Iceland, we strongly suggest to take a time. We booked 3 nights here. I would probably say 2 nights would have been enough, because you get the ferry early in the morning, you get here, and
you can do it and see most everything in 2 nights. If you like to hike, 3 nights would be recommended, because there's a lot of hiking here, and it's not easy hiking either. You're going to the top of the volcanoes, but it's pretty dramatic and it's worthwhile. So there's our recommendation on a number of nights.
Yeah, and so like I said, Ken was saying hiking. You're hiking a lot of gravel. There's some paths are formed, but there's not. A lot of them are on gravel, so you got to be careful.
Volcanic tough, gravel rock, and it's It's interesting. So you have to watch where you're stepping.
People here are delightfully friendly. We were crossing a street, and some people stopped and said, "You look lost," and we laughed and said, "We're tourists. We're always lost." So they told us where to go, and that's one thing that Jeannie was telling us, that people here on the island are very, very friendly. They're a little more friendlier than the people in Reykjavik and stuff. But we found, so far on our trip to Iceland, we have found everybody to be kind and very helpful, and I think they're glad for tourists. It's kind of a love-hate thing, but because of tourism has now become their biggest industry. A couple years ago, Iceland didn't have much going on until somebody posted a video of a volcano erupting, and now everybody wants to come to Iceland.
There's roughly 350,000 residents of Iceland, and this year they're projected to have 3 million tourists. So you can see how it can overwhelm a city. We were in some really small cities. I mean, the second biggest city is Akureyri, and I think their population's 25,000. And there was 3 cruise ships in there at one time, and so it
gets a little busy.
It's a little busy. Reykjavik has over half the population, and they can better handle multiple cruise ships. And
we'll talk a little bit at Reykjavik on our next podcast, but there is some amazing restaurants in Reykjavik, and so that's worth more than about 4 or 5 days. You would enjoy this city. So we just wanted to give you an update on where we are and what's going on, but mostly about Westman Islands. And one interesting thing note is there's 2 ferry stops. Getting back to Reykjavik, getting back to Iceland. To the mainland.
So let me kind of walk through this. This is kind of my tip of the day. You can bring your car over here on the ferry. No big deal. $27.50 US each way. There's a senior fare.
For people, not for cars.
Yeah, for people. Passenger fare, $18.32 for 2 people. It's twice that for adults, the regular fare. But here's the deal that you need to be aware of. The 40-minute ferry ride is from, and I'll probably blow this, but Landeshafen, and it's basically a ferry stop. I mean, it's a little port, and it's got some
nothing outbuildings.
Rock to try to make the harbor safe, barriers. And So when it gets rough, and it gets rough quite a bit, they go to another port, which is really a fishing village called Port Laxon. And it's a 3-hour ferry ride. So if you decide to leave your car in Landeshafen and come over and save the 27.50, and suddenly the weather gets bad, they're going to drop you off at Porkshafen, which is about an hour and 30 minutes away, and there's no buses, there's no taxis. You're kind of screwed. Or you're going to stay on Westman Island until the weather calms down and they can take you back to the 40-minute ferry stop on Landeshafen.
One thing that
you just need to know that and plan for it.
One thing is with the ferry office here, they're very flexible because this is, they're not their first rodeo. So we've had to change our ferry now 3 times since we've been here because we're not sure what was going on. So Ken went there, and though the girls that work there, they're a little bored, but they change it with no change fee or anything, which is a nice thing had to have in Iceland. They're very accommodating. So tomorrow morning we're taking the ferry out at 7 a.m. to the further point ferry, and the seas are supposed to be kind of rough.
5-meter seas, so I think we're going to get our seasick patches today.
Yeah, we want to make sure we have the car. So it's the cars, they say will be fine. So we'll let you know. We're hopefully it should be fine. And again, the weather, as we all know, weather changes. So we can see where we go from there. But that's our uptake on Westman Islands. It's Volcanic and Puffins. My tip of the day is about being prepared when you come to Iceland. I had read all the stuff about what to bring, what not to bring, etc. And I brought most of the things I needed, but I will tell you that I did buy a really cute Icelandic sweater just because I liked it, but I have worn that sucker more than I thought because it gets cold. It's very chilly.
Especially when the wind blows.
Yeah, and so I had brought a hat and a gloves just on the perchance that I might need it, and I have worn them. If you see our pictures, you see me most of the time in a hat and a gloves, and I've got multiple layers. So that's the other thing. Make sure that whatever you bring, that it's layerable, so that because you're going to be taking off layers and putting them on pretty much all the time while you're in Iceland, especially in Westman Islands.
And remember, it's summer right now.
Yeah. If you come here much later, it would be ridiculously cold.
So if you plan to come for the Northern Lights, the Aurora Borealis, and you come in the later months, November through March, you most likely will see the beautiful Northern Lights, but it's going to be cold. So anyway.
But they have all the gear for that if you go on those tours. So anyway, well, thanks for listening, and we'll keep you guys abreast of what's going on, and that's our information on Westman Islands. Have a good day.
Bye.
Angels,
Angels,
travel,
travel,
adventures.
adventures.